I directed a 2-part 13-song live recording for gospel singer Joel Barnes. This was a full circle moment from capturing BTS of Joel with Maverick City Music at multiple live recordings, to being a cam op on some live recordings, to now directing Joel's first solo project. Let's break it down. I was brought on by Taiwan Mac, who produced and creative directed this project. Joel and Taiwan had a vision for what they wanted. The vision did evolve over the pre-production process. Our many calls was us talking through how to make it happen. So we talked about crew, we talked about equipment, we talked about location. I took extensive notes. That's just something I always do, whether it's a client call, a wedding call, or something like this. I always make sure that every time we hop on the call, I take notes about what specifically is being talked about. From there, we kind of transitioned into, okay, the idea was locked in, we had the location, now it's time to make our gear list and secure our crew, things like that. I made a lot of gear lists and carts on LensRentals, maybe 5 or 6 different Joel live recording carts saved on my LensRentals. And then eventually when we got to the final one, I saved that as like the official cart. When we actually placed our order, they called to confirm a few things, but also helped talk through a lot of things that may have been overlooked, like extra cables that we needed, extra accessories, things like that. I was able to talk with a specialist that knew everything about all the gear we had, and it was super helpful, because if we had gotten to the week of and we're missing certain things, that would have been really a pain. So yeah, from the carts, we went into finding the crew. I referred to my database of creatives that I have, which has a bunch of amazing, talented cam ops, DPs, directors, photographers, all sorts of people. So I went through that and found different people based in Nashville and some from Charlotte, and was able to source my crew. 2 people were my own selected crew, and that was Justin Lazari, who was a first AC/DIT. He did a lot to just kind of be flexible and help out in many ways. And Cole Cooper, who was a cam op and was on the Dolly cam. The rest of the crew was sourced locally in Nashville, I believe through a church, and they were amazing to work with. I'm super thankful to have had 5 or 6 people locally from Nashville, and then a couple people from Joel's team. The gaffer and grip was from Nashville as well. He's from Nashville Lighting and Grip. His name is Colin Miller. He did a fantastic job. So our entire lighting setup, which we'll kind of get to and talk about, he did 90% of the setup completely on his own in one single day, and he was absolutely locked in. Like, he just did his thing. That was pre-production. Talking about the actual production, when we got to the week of the recording, we had ordered over 20 boxes of equipment from LensRentals and additional equipment from Nashville Lighting and Grip. We had to literally take 2 trips with giant SUVs to go pick up all the boxes, because they could not all fit in one trip. They had all types of things like director's monitors, the camera kits, tripods, stands, like all sorts of things. And we took it to the location where we unboxed everything, opened everything up, stored the boxes, took inventory of everything we had, and then we started setting up our video village. So we set up a couple tables in this corner of the room to kind of set up our director's monitors, our camera kits on the tables, as well as our communication system, so that when cam ops came in, they would know exactly where to go to grab their headset and camera and just be ready to go. It took us an entire day just to build cameras. In a way, I kind of operated as a first AC also. Justin came in a day later, and he actually helped just make sure everything was good with the build. So he tweaked everything and rebuilt some of the cameras so that they were perfect and ready to go. The following day, after we built the cameras, Colin came in and we picked up all the lighting equipment we needed, as well as all the additional gear. Because we were doing a bunch of ceiling mounted lights, we had to get a ton of gear, which I don't have all the specifics about. That was more of Colin's department, but Colin made sure we had everything we needed. We had about 6 RE sky panels that created our key, and those were mounted to the ceiling, and then had a huge, I believe it was a 20 by scrim, softening the light. Besides that, we then had a bunch of tungsten lights around the outer ring, also ceiling mounted. And I forget exactly what the tool is called, but we were able to kind of adjust the height of those and the angle. So we went in, they had barn doors on them. After Colin set up all the lights and the scrim and everything like that, we went through and just tweaked a little bit. The RE sky panels were giving us that nice cool light, and then the lights on the outside were giving us that tungsten, that nice warm color. But we didn't want the tungsten, especially when it got to the back rows, to start sending that warm light onto the artists' faces. We really wanted it to hit the crowds and then provide backlight for the artists and the musicians. And then after that, we had another day before the recording, and that's the day that most of the crew came in. We had the local people in Nashville come in, as well as Justin and Cole, and we just kind of ran through things. Everybody kind of got a feel for what the cameras were, where they were going to be, how things were going to run. We did a lot of dolly practicing just to make sure that the speed felt good and that the control, the servo zoom, the focusing felt good for the operator. Shout out to Cole for taking his time and just really locking in and making sure that the dolly cam was going to be as good as it could be. The way the recording worked, it was a 2-part recording. We did one session in the AM and then one session in the PM with a break in between. It was a really good opportunity to kind of feel out the cam ops, because not every single cam op came in the day before. So there were a few that I didn't really know how it was going to go as far as plotting and placement. And so after the AM recording, I was able to have a meeting with the cam ops, and we did some moving around, we did some debriefing, and I swapped a couple people's positions to make them just more comfortable at what they were doing. And the PM recording, in my opinion, went so much better from a camera perspective. We also, between the AM and PM, added an additional camera angle because we had a backup camera just sitting around, and that's where we got the that ground floor POV that's shooting up at the artist. The only downside, and I will be honest and critique myself, we did not think enough about power for that camera, and so we weren't monitoring it. It was an unmonitored camera, and it did die in the middle of the PM recording because we just never checked on it. And looking back, we did have batteries, we could have swapped it. I just didn't think about it, but we should have been checking in between each song to make sure that the recording was still live. Everyone was on comms. I also had additional in-ears so that I could hear what the MD was saying to the musicians, just to kind of know what was coming up next, where we were going, so that while I was relaying information to the cam ops, I would know things that were coming up so we weren't missing things. In between the AM and the PM, we also were dumping footage from the cameras. I overestimated how much data we would use, and so that's a good thing. We had plenty of space on the cards, but just to be safe, we still dumped in between. The dumping did take a little while. The transfer speeds just weren't super high, but Justin was super helpful in just making sure everything ran smoothly. So as we were getting ready for the PM recording, Justin was making sure the dumping was going smoothly, and we were obviously dumping in multiple locations with the backup. We all know the rule that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Honestly, when I look back at the live recording, this was a pretty smooth recording. Some stuff did go wrong, some stuff didn't go to plan, but it wasn't as catastrophic as it could have been. We rented a few lenses for our gimbal setup from a certain Nashville rental house. All 3 lenses that we rented had major blemishes that were visible on the lens. We didn't notice at first, but during, I think, the very first song, the cam op was shooting and everything just looked a little out of focus. And so I called him back to Video Village, and we realized oh, this is a messed up lens. So we ended up having to use one of my own lenses. The other thing that happened, during one of the songs, the dolly track completely just broke. I'm not even sure that the musicians and the artists even noticed, really, or anyone except for the people in the very back. The dolly was in the back corner right by where I was with the director's monitors calling the shots. And in the middle of the song, all of a sudden, I think I was just watching the cam op shots and I saw the dolly cam shot just get crazy. And I was like, hey, tilt down or something. And we looked and saw that the dolly had actually, one of the things that was holding it up, the wheels had popped off. Thank goodness the camera didn't fall or anything like that. We were able to secure the camera, and Cole actually continued shooting with the camera on sticks, and we just raised it up really high. A few people jumped in and helped right away. My best friend, Philip Bowles, he jumped in and immediately grabbed the wheels, took a look at it, made sure, and he's the one that actually figured out it was fixable. In my head, my immediate thought was, okay, dolly's done. Let's just get the camera set and keep shooting, because you're just trying to move on. But Philip realized that it was a fixable problem. So he fixed it. We got the dolly track back on. We tested it a couple times before we put Cole back on it. And then, yeah, he hopped back on and we continued the live recording. And I think at the exact same time during the exact same song, there was a keyboard that collapsed and fell for a musician or something like that. There was a whole thing that happened during that exact same song, which is just crazy. So I'm like, I guess that song was really powerful and the devil decided to attack it, because for everything to go wrong at one time was just absolutely insane. The other thing that happened was during Count Me In, which was an amazing song, probably one of my favorites of the night. It was so powerful. It was a really good reprise to the song. They went back into it. It was an amazing moment of the night, but we did it both in the AM and PM, because during the AM, at some point during the song, the power completely blew. And that was actually what I believe ended the first live recording. I think we the power blew and we were like, all right, that's it, like let's go to break. So that was a pretty crazy moment, but we were able to do the song again and it was just as cool, just as amazing. Another thing that happened, so Cole was on the Dolly cam and the live recordings were very long. Both sessions were really long sessions to be sitting on camera and doing your thing. So shout out to the cam ops for enduring. I know a lot of them were sweating and just so tired holding their cameras. And Cole had to run to the bathroom. So he let me know over the comms and he hopped off. I hopped onto the Dolly cam and shot for, you know, the rest of the song while he went and used the bathroom. So that was kind of like an interesting moment because I obviously had to step away from the director's monitor and fully focus on getting the shot. But it was a fun moment, it was cool. And it was a good thing that I also had, before Cole had practiced on the Dolly cam, I also had practiced on it, which allowed me to know how to use it properly so that when he stepped out, I was able to step in seamlessly and just continue the work that he was doing. Those were the like stressful moments. The really good moments, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint a moment that was good. The whole live recording was really, really special. Like, no lie, it was amazing. The feeling that we had in the room, the atmosphere, it was incredible. It was insane. And it was more than just like, you know, a fancy live recording. Obviously, my job is to make sure that everything's captured well, everything's done. I'm trying to do my job to the best of my ability. So just because there were fancy cameras and lights and all that stuff doesn't mean that it was all for show. Joel's heart was really in the right place. And he brought me on to just make sure that I was focused on the visuals and making sure that everything's captured well. Sometimes I struggle with the thought of like, are we putting on a show or are we trying to like truly worship? And I think the thing is, instead of looking at it in a negative light of why are there so many cameras, why are the camera people so focused on getting shots, I think the truth of the matter is we want to capture the feeling that was in the room so that other people can experience it through video. And in order to do that, we need to be mindful of what's going on. We need to be on top of capturing those moments, and we want to capture it well. If it was captured poorly, yes, the music may still impact people, but I truly believe that capturing it with excellence is just what we were meant to do. That's what I was put on earth to do. And so being trusted with the vision of this, I wanted to make sure I did it right. So amazing moments, the feeling in the room. Count Me In was amazing. I'm actually gonna put it in this video if I'm allowed. At the end of the song, so the song ended, it was over, Aaron Cole walked off the stage, and we were like getting ready to go into the next song. And I don't know what happened, but the musicians or somebody picked it back up and Aaron Cole came running back and we went into another, like, you know, we just kept going. And that was like an awesome moment. I'm gonna put it in here if I can. Good Shepherd, and there was just a couple other songs that just had amazing testimonies, amazing moments. There was a moment where I believe Joel's pastor came up and spoke for a second, and it was just powerful. Like this recording truly was a special moment, and I'm just glad I was able to be a part of it and be able to capture it in such a way that the world can now see what happened in this recording. And even still, it's still not even a perfect representation. I mean, I wish we could have just had I wish we could have just had a 360 recording and everybody could wear Apple Vision Pros and feel like they're in the room, because it was actually insane. All right, so now talking about post-recording. So once the recording finished, which I believe was around 9 or 10 p.m., something like that, we immediately started teardown. So Colin came in, he brought the lift in and started taking down the lights and the scrim and things like that, which again, he did an incredible job of getting that done swiftly, smoothly, and then he was able to take off. For cameras, Cam Op stayed for a little bit and helped tear down some of the cameras and break down like tripods and things like that. Then I sent them home because I didn't want them there too long. It was already a very, very long day and we didn't want to overextend them over their, allotted time. And then Jazz and I actually stayed until 2 or 3 a.m. just packing everything back up. So again, we had like 20 plus boxes. I made the mistake of not checking the shipping manifest. So we kind of just put things in different boxes based on where I believe they were supposed to go. And I had a few reference pictures, but I didn't take pictures of all, 20 or 30 boxes. So thankful for Jazz staying that whole time, because in my heart, I wanted to send her home because it was like, dude, it's so late. Like, just go to the hotel, get some rest. I'll just finish it. But had I done that, I'd have been there all night. So super thankful that she stayed and helped get everything tore down and back in the boxes. And then what we ended up doing, because we couldn't take all the boxes back at 3 a.m., we just put them in the corner of the studio and contacted the owner and let him know, hey, can we come back in the morning and take all this stuff back to FedEx? And we actually were able to do it in one trip because we swapped cars with someone else. So we had a bigger car, we fit everything in one car, and we took it back to FedEx where we returned everything. So moving on to post-production. The recording week was great. It was amazing. From there, we obviously had 2 drives full of the recording footage. So one drive went with Taiwan and Joel and that team so that they have a backup. Then from there, I took the main drive and split it into SSDs. Because we shot on Ursa Minis, some were 12K, some were 4.6Ks, and then Blackmagics 6K. All the files were massive. The backup drive that we had just didn't run the files great. So instead, I moved them onto SSDs, but I didn't have an SSD big enough to fit all of the footage because I believe it was about 6 to 7 terabytes. I handled all the editing and color on the videos. I sat on the footage for a while until the audio was pretty much not locked, but they had gotten a couple roughs done. Then I popped them into a Davinci Resolve where I synced everything up using multicam editing in Davinci Resolve. That was a pretty long process, but not too bad considering that I was just cutting between the cameras. This was when I actually ended up getting the Davinci Resolve speed editor. It's up there behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but that really, really helped to be able to cut through all those angles because we had about 10 angles to choose from, I believe. So once the cuts were done, I sent those off. And obviously they made more audio cuts, more audio edits. I actually did make updated versions on the roughs. I think the highest version we went up to was V3. And then once the audio was completely locked in, that's when I made my final version with cuts and we made sure video was approved. And once video was completely approved, I went back through everything and color graded to each song, to each angle, down to each shot, just to make sure everything was where it needed to be. For the color grade, I used ButteryLUTS, Natural Rec 709, with the +2 contrast, and then dialed in the color from there. I also did use Davinci's built-in noise reduction, which was super helpful, actually exclusively for the Blackmagic 6K footage, because on the 6Ks, we did have to bump up the ISO up to, I believe, 1250 or maybe 32, because we wanted to go with a high aperture so that more things were in focus on that gimbal camera, so they didn't have to do too much pulling focus on their own. I had to apply some noise reduction that brought those clips back to a decent, place. Shooting in B-Raw also came in super clutch because we did end up having to shoot on a mixture of Ursa 12Ks and Ursa 4.6Ks. The plan was to shoot on all 12Ks, but it wasn't able to happen. So we had to mix and match, which meant that half of the footage was in Gen 4 color science and the other half was in Gen 5 color science. Having the raw capabilities allowed me to pop in there and just change all of the 4.6K cameras up to Gen 5, which then made the color grading so much easier. And to be honest, when I first started coloring, I forgot that the 4.6Ks were in Gen 4. So I was coloring and trying to, copy the grade to the next angle, and it just wasn't looking right. It was looking so crunchy and weird. And that's when I realized oh, it's the wrong gen number. So I went in and changed one. Then I realized, okay, it's probably easier to just change all of them before I start coloring. I can apply base color to everything and then go in and tweak per angle. Because yes, it didn't work. You couldn't just copy the grade for everything based on where people were, where lights were, but it gave me a better base to just put everything in Gen 5. So shout out to Blackmagic for the color science and shout out to Blackmagic for Davinci, allowing me to go in there and change it. Once we were locked, everything was good to go. I exported everything as ProRes 422s so that they could be uploaded to Apple Music and YouTube and wherever else they got sent to for the DSPs. Joel's team handled all of the uploading and everything else. I just made sure that they were exported properly, uploaded into Dropbox, and downloadable for them. And then once they got their hands on it, they've uploaded them to DSPs, gotten them on YouTube, as well as created social content from them. So yeah, that's pretty much how post-production went. It was a pretty long process. I believe we shot this in October of last year and it was released like last month. So it did take a very, very long time to get everything done. But again, in things like this, it's a huge process with a lot of people involved. Video is one part, but there was a whole audio team. When I was talking about tearing down, the audio team was there after us. So we left at 2 or 3 a.m. and the audio team was still in there tearing down and loading up their truck. So yeah, there was multiple teams working on this stuff, and then into post, same thing, multiple hands had to see everything, things had to go through approvals. So it is a long process, but I'm super, super happy that the project is out. This was a project that took weeks and months of planning ahead of time, and also weeks and months to put together in the end. And so I'm super thankful for Taiwan and Joelle for asking me to be on this project. Thankful for the crew that was able to help bring it to life, and now we get to enjoy this footage because of you guys. I'm thankful for my wife Jazz being there the whole time and just pitching in and helping in every way possible. I just threw her into like a first AC / PA / assistant director role, and she just rolled with it, picked it up, and it actually brought us a lot closer together. Thank you to Jazz for enduring that stressful week and putting up with my attitude and sleep deprived self for a full 5 days. Thank you to everyone for helping make this experience amazing for my first live recording that I've directed myself. Can't wait for the next one. I forgot to say this too. Shout out to Trey and Dylan, who were also doing video, not necessarily part of the actual cam op team, but we did use some of Trey's footage in the final video. So thank you for just being there, capturing the moments, capturing the BTS. That behind the scenes stuff is so, so important. And I'm going to be using it in this video. We also used some of the shots in the actual live recording videos, and Dylan's recaps were amazing each and every day. So shout out to you guys. The capture of this project was amazing, and the full team was incredible. So thanks, y'all. You can go.